Hey, what's up, Rev? How you guys doing? Doing all right? Everyone online was like, woo. Great, I'm glad you're here. No, for real, I'm seriously so glad that you're here. If you're new, I'm really glad that you joined us tonight. I'm very proud of you. I am stoked to be here because tonight we're jumping into a brand new teaching series that we are calling Views. And in this series, we're gonna spend some time talking about our worldview, because the way that we view the world around us influences our emotions, it influences our relationships, and it influences our connection to God. Simply put, I put it like this: what we view influences what we do. Let me give you an example. A few months ago, my wife and I were at the mall. She wanted to go to DSW, which is a shoe store. I went with her, and I was like, yeah, I'll look around. And so I was looking around, and I came to this aisle that had a bunch of Vans, the shoes, right? And a couple weeks before that, I saw that viral video that was going around where people were throwing Vans and they were landing right side up. Remember this? Yes? So every time someone would throw the Vans, they would land right side up. Okay, so I'm there. I'm surrounded by Vans. I'm thinking, this is my moment. I'm going to do this. So I look around. No one's watching me. And I grab a pair of Vans and I'm like, I throw them in the air. And they land right side up first time. And I'm thinking, okay, what are the odds? Let's do it again. Grab the same pair of shoes, throw them in the air. They land again on the right side. So I'm thinking, okay, new pair of shoes. Grab a new pair of shoes, throw those up in the air. They land right side, and at that moment, I lose my freaking mind. I just start grabbing Vans and throwing them all over the place. I mean, by the time I was done, there was like 100 Vans all around me. And I'm not kidding, all of them were right side up. Like my wife was completely ignoring me at this point, like disowning me. And then some dude who worked there came around the corner and and I'm just like standing there with Vans, like, you know, and I was like, sorry, man, like I'll clean this up. And then he was like, dude, you're like the 10th person this week to do this to this aisle. And so I was like, sweet, I'm not alone. But the only reason I wanted to throw shoes all over the place was because I viewed a video and it influenced what I wanted to do when I was surrounded by all of those shoes. So think about this for a minute. Put this in the context of your life for 1 second. What does what you are viewing or admiring or watching influence how you're feeling? Influence your emotions? Influences your state of mind, influences your relationships. For so many of us, we can draw a line between what we are viewing to what we are feeling or what we are doing. And so in this series, we're gonna spend some time talking about ways to change our viewpoint in order to positively influence how we feel, what we do, and most importantly, our connection to God. And the way we're gonna kick it off this week is by talking about wisdom. Now, wisdom is many things, but at its core, wisdom is knowledge when you apply it in the best way possible. So wisdom is more than information, right? In fact, what it really is when we know what to do with the information that's been given to us. A life without wisdom is one where we are constantly guessing, hoping to find the right answer somewhere in the dark. But a life with wisdom is when we have the viewpoint to choose what is best. So what I want to give you tonight are two ways that wisdom can work in your life right now. And the way I want to do that is I want to go to a book in the Old Testament of the Bible called Proverbs. Proverbs is a book dedicated to this idea of God's wisdom applied to our daily life. And tonight, I want to give you two ways that wisdom can work in your life that come from the book of Proverbs. And the first way is this: wisdom welcomes advice. Wisdom welcomes advice. Proverbs 19:20 kind of frames it up for us, and it says it like this: seek out advice and instruction so you will be wise the rest of your life. Now notice that advice and instruction come before wisdom. In other words, you can't get wisdom unless you also gain advice, because wisdom doesn't come from within you. It just doesn't spring out of who you are. Many of us need to realize that wisdom only comes when we recognize that we don't have all the answers. In fact, that we need help a lot of the time. And I'll be honest with you, I hate asking for help. I don't like it at all. It doesn't make me feel good even a little bit most of the time. But I will also be honest in telling you that has gotten me into a lot of trouble in my life, especially when it comes to putting the groceries away in my own home. I'll tell you a story, okay? So my wife, Kelsey, she puts the groceries away in our house because she has a very specific place where she likes the groceries, and I never know where that place is, okay? And after we had our first kid, Olive, I was like trying to step up my husband game, you know? And so I was thinking, man, I'll try to find some things around the house to do for her. And one of them was, I'll put the groceries away. She would love that. And so I am 100% confident that I know how to do this. I'm like, this is my house. These are my groceries, my kitchen. I'm going to do this. And I was not looking for advice, mostly because I wanted all of the credit. This is super selfish of me, but just go with me, okay? So grab the groceries, put the produce in the fridge. I put the canned stuff in the cabinet, put the coffee in the cabinet. I'm feeling real strong at this point. But then I come to this like very strange substance called quinoa. Do you guys know what quinoa? This is what cooked quinoa looks like, okay? And at this point in my life, like I didn't even know what quinoa was. I couldn't even pronounce the word quinoa. I still don't know if I'm saying it right. Like I have no clue. Thank you. Someone says I'm saying it right. Thank you. So I get to quinoa, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. Now, what I should have done was go to my wife and say, hey, what is this, like, cat food that we have, and where do I put it in our kitchen? And then, like, take her advice. But I didn't do that. What I did instead was put it in a Tupperware, put it in the back of the cabinet, walk away and forget about it, okay? Because what I didn't realize when I didn't ask for advice is that it's supposed to go in the refrigerator. So here's what happened. 2 months go by. I'm at work. I get a phone call from my wife. And she was like, hey, listen, our house smells like death. Like, it smells terrible in here. And I don't know what to do. I've cleaned everything. And I'm like, oh, no. Like, a mouse died in our kitchen or something. And so I was like, sorry, like, maybe you should just, like, take all the stuff out of the cabinet to see if, like, there's a dead mouse, which is, like, the worst husband thing to do. Anyways. It was bad husband move on my part. But she was just like, okay, whatever. Hang up the phone. 2 minutes later, I get another phone call. The first words out of my wife's mouth was, did you put the groceries away without asking me first? And in that moment, I remembered, the quinoa. And I was like, yeah. And she was like, you are never allowed to do that ever again. Now look, we got it figured out. The kitchen didn't smell anymore, and I was banned from ever putting the groceries away by myself ever again. But that was such an easy solution. I mean, it was really kind of a dumb situation, right? It was so easy for me to just go to my wife and say, where do I put this? And then do whatever she told me to do because she could tell me the right thing to do. But I let my pride get in the way, and it stopped me from asking for advice. And eventually, it made my house stink. It smelled really bad. It's like black, crusty, moldy quinoa. Like nobody wants that in their house. But again, when we think about this in the context of our lives, so often, when we make the habit of not asking for advice, something in our lives begins to stink. Something in our lives begins to go bad because when we overlook the value of asking for advice, we end up isolating ourselves. And none of you are meant to be isolated. Because the moment someone can't get to you, the moment someone can't be honest with you, is the moment where your relationships, your emotions, your heart will begin to go bad. And so let me ask you, what do you need advice for in your life right now? Like really practically speaking. What is that situation that you're up against right now? Maybe it's a relationship that you just don't have the answers to, but you're not talking to anyone about it. What's that subject in school that you just need a little bit extra help with? What's that question? What's that decision that you have in front of you that you just need to find a way forward? Where do you need advice? Whatever it may be, my challenge for you is to not allow your pride to get in the way of seeking advice, because when you seek advice, you get wisdom in return. And wisdom will keep your life from going bad. And so the first way that wisdom can work for you is by seeking advice. And the second way that wisdom can work for you is it teaches us the value of walking with God, because wisdom walks with God. I had a girlfriend in high school who broke up with me because I walked too fast. It's true. Let me explain. So after school each day, she would invite me to go on these walks with her, just kind of like around the neighborhood of where school was, and we lived close by, so we would walk, and then we would both go home. And I really loved these walks because she was super smart, and she was easy to talk to, and we had like great conversation. The only problem that we had was when it was my turn to talk or tell a story, like I would get so into it that I would just keep walking and like kind of zone her out, which by the way, boyfriends, you shouldn't do that. It's bad. Zone her out, and then I stopped to realize, like, I'm all alone. Like, I don't know where she is. I turn around, she's like 50 feet behind me somewhere, just like deep breathing, trying to catch up with me. And so what I would do, and this is true, I would not go back and like apologize, say, hey, I'm so sorry, and then slow down and walk with her. I would literally just like wait. For her to get to me, and literally as soon as this is true, this is awful. As soon as she caught up with me, I would like take off speed walking like one of those suburban moms. I'm just like, are you coming? Okay. You know what I mean? Like I'm just gone. And so when she eventually broke up with me, which she was totally right in doing, she literally said to me, I still remember this. She said, I'm looking for someone who will walk with me and not in front of me all the time. And I was like, I am the worst human being in the whole world. But the truth is that she was onto something. She was onto something much deeper in my life than I was really willing to admit in that moment. The truth is I wasn't just out walking people. A lot of the time, I was outpacing them emotionally. I was just pushing past people, and I was expecting everyone in my life to catch up to me. I wasn't willing to slow down to listen to them. And when I was really honest with myself, I recognized that I was doing that to God too. I was outpacing God and not walking with him in my life. And see, the truth is that that's not how wisdom works. Wisdom cares more about who you're walking with, who you're willing to slow down for and listen to, than it is about how many accomplishments you have, how well you're doing in school, how many followers you have, how much influence you have, what your reputation looks like. Wisdom is more concerned with who you're listening to and who you're slowing down for. So let me ask you, who are you walking with? Who's in your life that you're actually gaining wisdom from or trying to? And if you don't have a quick answer to that, the good news is that the book of Proverbs actually tells us where to start. In the Message translation of Proverbs in chapter 1, it says this: start with God. Sometimes I think we can complicate things a lot when it comes to following Jesus, but sometimes it's actually that simple. When we're looking for wisdom, sometimes we need to start with God, because the first step in learning is bowing down to God. Only fools thumb their nose at such wisdom and learning. And the thing I love about this verse is that it reminds me that when I'm in need of guidance, when I'm in need of direction, when I'm in need of a way forward, which is honestly like a lot of the time, I know where to start. Like I start with God. I slow the pace of my life to make sure that God is invited and involved in what I'm doing, what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling. The truth is, all of us at one point or another will need someone to walk alongside of us. And in your life, you will have so many people telling you how to walk, how to get through your life. Some of those voices will tell you, some of those viewpoints will show you that life is all about the hustle. It's all about getting ahead. It's all about staying busy. It's all about doing whatever you have to do to take that next step forward, whoever you're stepping on. Some of those voices will tell you that life is all about you, about your perspective, about your opinions, about your freedom, about your self-expression. But the problem with all of those viewpoints is that they assume that you are on your own trying to figure out meaning, trying to figure out a sense of belonging, trying to find a place where you can be yourself. But God's wisdom does something different. God's wisdom invites you and I to realize that we are never alone when we walk with him. God's wisdom doesn't leave us on our own, but it requires that we choose to walk with him and involve him in our life. So let me ask you, are there places in your life where you're outpacing God? Are there areas in your life where you're leaving him in the dust? I mean, I don't know your story, but maybe some of you are here tonight and stuff is really hard for you. You're in a tough spot, whether it's at home or it's at school or just in life. You're just going through a tough spot, and maybe you're angry with God because of it. And so you're ignoring him, pushing him out of the picture. Or maybe if you're really honest, your life is just really busy. You've got school, you've got homework, you've got jobs, you've got sports, you've got practice, you've got relationships, and you don't make any time to listen to God because the only time that you have is to think about yourself and to think about what's next. And maybe some of you have actually already turned your back on God, but now you're in a place in your life where you actually need some guidance. You need some direction and a way forward, but nothing's coming to mind. The thing you need to know is that wisdom, it starts with God. Because none of us are meant to walk alone. And the good news is that God wants to walk with us. So my question for all of us across all of our campuses tonight is, will you have the wisdom to walk with him? I think that some of you are here tonight and you're saying, yeah, I want to do that. I want to walk with God in my life, but the truth is I don't know where to start. I don't even think I understand what walking with God even means. Well, I want to actually invite you to understand what it means. First of all, a working definition is that you invite and involve God into your daily life. But a way to do that is something that I want all of us to try together. And it's this, 31-day challenge. So, hear me out. This is the 31-day challenge. Starting tomorrow, we, as Revolution, across all of our campuses, we are going to read through the book of Proverbs. One chapter each day for 31 days. And by the end of 31 days, we'll read the whole book together. And there's a couple ways to do that. But first, let me tell you practically how to start. You start by picking a time of day. For some of you, it's going to be first thing in the morning. That'll work for you. For some of you, it'll be right before bed at night. For others of you, it'll be on the bus ride to school. It'll be at school and study hall. It'll be before practice or after practice. But you've got to hear me on this, you've got to find a time that works for you in your schedule because you'll be more likely to go to it when it's in your calendar, when it's in your schedule. So you start there. Find a time of the day that works for you. For me, it's first thing in the morning. And then it's how you do it. So 2 ways. One, you grab like a book. Do you guys know what a book is still? I think, yes. Grab a Bible, right? A real Bible. You open it to Proverbs chapter 1 tomorrow, and you read the chapter, and you go through it. The other way that I want to kind of invite all of us into is for you to download the YouVersion Bible app on your phone. This is what it looks like. It's compatible on all of the phones, Android, Apple, all the stuff, okay? Many of you probably already have it. But once you download this app, you can search for a bunch of different plans, and I want to recommend one to all of you tonight. And this is the plan. This is what it looks like. It's called the Wisdom of Proverbs. This is kind of the face of it. It's put together by an organization called the Bible Project, and I really believe in them. Part of what they do is they create these videos that help make the Bible come alive, and they're not lame, I promise you. Take my word for it. And the reason I want you to take my word for it, trust me, is because I want to do this challenge with you. For the next 31 days, I want to do this with you. And here's my best idea of how to do that. It's a little bit weird, but what I want you to do is I want you to follow me on Instagram. That's right. I'm trying to boost those followers, know what I'm saying? I'm just kidding. I actually don't care how many followers. And my Instagram is actually very, very lame. I mean, it's just like my family, who I think they're awesome, but you guys might not. But what I want you to do is follow me on Instagram, because for the next 31 days, I'm going to jump on my stories, and I'm going to talk about how I'm implementing wisdom into my life. I'm going to do my best to be really honest. I'm going to do my best to try to pull out what God is teaching me, to apply it to practical things so that you guys can keep me accountable. But the thing is, I don't want to do this alone either. And so what I'm asking all of you to do is not just follow me on Instagram, but I want you to share what God is teaching you, how How are you growing in wisdom? It's 3 easy steps. I want you to read it, I want you to share it, and then I want you to live it. Read Proverbs every day. Share it on your Instagram feeds. Share it on however you feel comfortable sharing it. And then live it out. Put it into practice each and every day. And the reason I'm calling us to do this challenge, the reason I'm calling us to read the Bible together is because when we read the Bible, we are seeking advice and we are walking with God in the same step. Because the Bible is God's wisdom. And slowly, as we read it more and more often, and we apply its advice into our life, we are walking with God. And so my question is, will you join me? Will you grow in wisdom with me over the next 31 days? And will you call me out on the days that I forget to post something on my story, okay? Because that will probably happen. But really what I'm concerned about, really what I care about for all of you, is that you begin to see the world a little bit more clearly. That you're able to discern the difficult decisions that you have in your day. And most importantly, that you remember, that you realize that when you're with God, you are never alone. You have a place to start. You have a place to belong. And you have a guide who wants to lead you through your life so that your viewpoint can see as far as it needs to. So, friends, let's read Proverbs together. Let's grow in wisdom. And let's live it out. See the world more clearly. Let's pray at all of our campuses. Jesus, thank you so much for all that you do. Thank you for loving us. Thank you for always being with us. Thank you for being our source of wisdom. I pray for my friends and just Revolution as a total as we go through these next 31 days, that God, you would do something really powerful in our hearts and in our lives, that you would change us, Lord, and that we would have more wisdom and more discernment and just more eagerness to seek out advice when we need it, to look for help when we need it, and to grow in a reliance on you. So God, thank you for loving us. We trust you. We love you. In Christ's name, amen. All right, Rev. See you next week. Peace.